Let it all work out. Let it all work out. It all worked out. Arsenal 5, Leeds United 0. Welcome to today's Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you've had a really fantastic Saturday. I'm sure it was enjoyable, at least for the most part. There's some things we need to talk about that were less good, but overall, I think it was a wonderful Saturday, filled with some brilliant things, some great sights, some memorable moments, and certainly some moments that some will remember for a very, 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 very long time. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show, that would be greatly appreciated. Good morning to you all joining us live in the chat box. Thank you so much for doing so. Good morning to Kirill, to P Sharp, to Simple Unity, to Leo. Good morning to Ronald and Martin. Good morning to Loga. We've got John. We've got Paul in the chat box. We've got Anna and Spearman and Gooner from NZ. We've got Loga, Angela, Baz, Matthew. We've got Dan and Luke. We've got Ernest. More Pauls, more Matts, more Chris's, more Luke's. Carrie Ann in the chat box. Saxon, Max, Tebby. Good morning to you all. Aiden as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time and your listenership as well. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe, of course, to the channel, and yeah, let's get into things straight away. What a first day at the Emirates. It was. I know I predicted quite a big win. You know, I think I said 3-0, but I wasn't expecting 5. I wasn't expecting some of the things we saw. I was hoping for some of the things that we saw, but I wasn't necessarily expecting many of the things that we saw on yesterday evening. But Arsenal managed to come away with a 5-0 win of just utter dominance and ease, really. There's really only one moment in the game where Arsenal were tested, and David Raya produced that wonderful save from Pascal Struck's header from a corner. A really good stop by Raya, and one which I think Gabriel will probably look back on and think he should have done more, and he lost his man. But that was really the only moment where I felt myself in any way worried, concerned, on edge. And Arsenal managed to come away with what is a win that is something of a statement. It's a win that was produced by a team that, yes, we will come on to the players that we might lose for a little while, but a team that didn't include their brand new signing, who we'll also talk about. But first, let's discuss the 11 on the day. Gyökeres, of course, leading the line. Madueke on the left. Of course, something I wanted to see from the start. Martinelli didn't play a single minute in the game. That's interesting. That's a talking point. We'll probably come on to that in part 2, I'm sure. Saka, Odegaard, Rice, Mendy, Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber coming in for Ben White, who is currently out injured. And, of course, as I mentioned there, David Raya, who produced that brilliant save from Pascal Struck. But overall, very happy. And obviously, with Havertz being out, with White being out, it left some space on the bench. Kivior on the bench there. Wasn't obviously in the squad last time, and he entered the squad. But Max Dowman, who we'll talk about a lot later in the show, also coming in to fill the role of Havertz, who was obviously missing. And there were some interesting things from Mikel Arteta's press conference about him, who I also want to discuss in part 2 as well with you all. But let's move to, of course, the unveiling that happened before the game. And a little story for you, kind of how I became a little bit aware of what was going on. I met up with good friends of the channel, Mark and Charles Watts, of course, before the game. Had a cheeky shandy and had a chat about kind of what we were expecting. And then, of course, we saw the leak that came out from Red Action about the Eze reveal. But I was told at that point it was still not quite yet agreed. And then it was kind of just rumours at this point, and it wasn't yet. Even when I got to the ground and I was asking some questions, it hadn't been 100% confirmed. You know, I was speaking to some very well-connected people before the match, and still it was a case of it's touch and go. We're not 100% sure if it's going to quite happen. And I was kind of given a bit of an indication around, you'll know around 4. And then I got an email. It was letting me know things were moving, things were happening. So I had to get a piece ready to go out at 5, of course, when he was officially announced as an Arsenal player. And then, of course, was kind of politely told, you might want to be in your seat at 5:15. I was out there a lot earlier than that, believe me. But certainly it was a brilliant moment just to be in the crowd, in the stadium, as the roar, the cheers, the vibes were lovely. The video is lovely. You know, I love an intro video to a new player. I love an announcement video. You know that. We're very critical of announcement videos. We want we want them to be emotive and energetic and inspiring and to get the feels going. But I think, and AFC DNB says, yeah, it was a beautiful video. One of the best, without a doubt. One of the best announcement videos. Of course, Ian Wright involved. Come from Crystal Palace, of course, himself to Arsenal. And, you know, I know there's a lot of kind of Sol Campbell-esque desires that we wanted to see, kind of the Tottenham shunning. And we saw that arguably from Arteta later on in his interviews. And the quote as well of, you know, it was always Arsenal. So there's some Spurs kind of jabs there, but I'm actually kind of glad that it wasn't Sol Campbell now. I wanted it initially. I wanted the Sol Campbell edge to the video, but I'm really happy that it wasn't, and I'm really happy that we went down this route instead. I think a classier route than just throwing jabs at our rivals, that can come later. But I thought it was just a real emotional video, and when the song, of course, played as he was leaving the field, you know, as he was leaving, and Let It All Work Out by Lil Wayne comes across the tannoy, he kind of put his hands together and pointed to the sky, and you could tell the emotion in him. You can see that how much this is kind of how long he's waited for this. So that was great. It was a really great moment, and I can't wait to see him in an Arsenal shirt. I can't wait to see what more. We'll probably talk more about Eze in tomorrow's show, but we're going to focus more on the game today. I've not changed the caption. But obviously, Arsenal's victory here came courtesy of 2 goals in the end from Jurrien Timber, who had an amazing day. Now, I've been debating about whether or not to throw a friend under the bus here. And I've decided I'm going to do it. So, so if you're watching Art de Roche, I'm sorry. But, of course, we were discussing before the game who we were putting on the back of our shirts this season. And I said on the 3rd shirt, which I'm still waiting for the arrival of course, that I was having Jurrien Timber on the back of my 3rd kit. And Art looked at me and goes, wasn't pleased. So after Jurrien Timber scores and assists at half time, just kind of went up and gave Art a bit of a smile, like, not so bad, is he? Not so. By the way, it's not like a slight on the player. It was kind of like, if you can have a player's name on the back of shirt, why? Right back. That's why, because Jurrien Timber is one of my favourite players. And then the second half rolls around, he scores again. And at full time, I'm sitting next to Art at the press conference, and yeah, it's fair to say I had a smug face. Yeah, I had a very, 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 very smug face. And I think he regretted probably saying certain things before the game, but Art, you'll learn, boy. You'll learn. But what a fantastic performance from Jurrien Timber. Great headed goal, of course. Lovely glancing header into the bottom corner. Really fantastic pass to Saka to set him up for his chance. and then just in the right place, the right time in the second half, when he kind of just got his toe to the ball. Is it a handball? I feel like, one of those, William Saliba, of course, with his kind of touches his hand on his arm before it kind of falls to Calafiori. I think the rule is that if the ball is touched on the arm of the player that scores, that's the problem. But I don't think it was intentional, but it does obviously strike, I think, the arm of Saliba. It's a touch and go. It's one of those where I think if it's going to give away an Arsenal penalty, like Arsenal will get a penalty for it, I almost feel like I would really be calling for it. Or rather, if it was going to rule out a goal that Arsenal conceded, as though I probably would be calling for it. And I wouldn't want Arsenal to concede if that had happened in the build-up. So I'm kind of torn on that one. I'm sure none of you will be biased when it comes to... but I think the video shows it clearly does kind of touch his hand in the build-up. But people in the chat box are saying it's inconclusive. But I felt like it conclusively kind of touched Saliba's hand in my view. But that's just my opinion. Saka obviously scored the second goal of the game, and a brilliant finish it was. But it was obviously overshadowed entirely by the fact that he has now and did leave the field with an injury, a hamstring injury, as did Martin Odegaard. Asked Arteta after the game about those two, and he says, those are the two negatives of the day. Martin felt something in his shoulder when he landed. We don't know. We'll have to scan him tomorrow and understand a bit better. He did carry on for quite a while after the injury, but eventually the pain clearly became too much and he felt like he couldn't continue. So hopefully it's not a case of like it dislocated and went back in or something like that, or kind of a something that, we remember Mikel Marino was out with a broken shoulder for about 2 months when he first joined the club. So hopefully it's nothing like that, but we'll wait and see. And on Bukayo, he said he was running with the ball, carrying the ball, wrestling the defender, and he felt something in his hamstring. So let's see. I think it's the other one, which it is, by the way. He injured his right one against Palace last season. It's his left one this time. Sorry, I couldn't get to the mute button. It's not the same, he says, as the previous injury. But yeah, I mean, we've been 2 weeks and we already lost Kai, Martin and Bukayo. So it tells you how well equipped you have to be in this league to manage and maintain the level that we want. It's nuts. It is nuts to think what 2 games in. We're 2 games in. We've lost White. We've lost Kai. We've lost Saka. We've lost Odegaard. I thought our luck was done. I thought our luck was over in terms of this injury stuff. I genuinely thought it was done. I thought we were fine. I thought that we weren't going to have to worry about this anymore. I really, really, really did. But how naive am I? How naive am I? And this is why I get annoyed, because like people talk about this idea of physios and trainings and conspiracies. Saka's was a hamstring, which can happen to any player. Odegaard falls onto his shoulder and obviously damages it. And it's just bad luck. Like it is just bad luck at this point. And we won't get Norgard. You're right in the chat box. Yeah, Norgard is also out. Jesus currently still out, of course, as well. So that's what Jesus, Norgard, Odegaard, Saka, Kai, and White. 6 players already gone out for however long a time, different lengths of injuries, we assume. The benefit is, of course, that now we have depth in the squad. And even though we lost those players, we were able to come through the game very comfortably. And that's because we've got players like Noni Madueke now in the squad, who I thought his performance improved when he moved on to the right-hand side, definitely. Trossard, I thought, was good when he came off the bench as well. He was bright. He was good with his passing. He looked sharp. So that was obviously a benefit too. And we'll talk about some of the other players as well that came off the bench also. But it's just gutting. It's absolutely gutting. Do I see us changing anything else in the transfer window? Maybe a loan, potentially. Maybe I could see Arsenal doing a loan if there are significant problems, because they're going to have to sell players now. Financially, they are tight, very tight after that Eze move. And they always kind of did that in the knowledge they were confident of moving some players on between now and the end of the window. But Yeah, very difficult. Dan in the chat says, Tom, a physio here. Martins looked like an AC joint injury, classic mechanism with him being able to play on. Likely a grade 1 or 2, can be injected and play in the next week, but may miss a game. Hopefully he doesn't miss Liverpool because he's going to be really needed for that. But thank you, Dan, for your insights. So, yeah, fingers crossed it works out. But maybe it's a case of we have to keep Reece Nelson at the club rather than letting him leave until January, and we keep him in the squad. It might be worth doing that. But let's get on to the positives of the day. I don't really want to lull myself into this sense of frustration, which is very easy to do when you've lost some key players. Let's move on to more of the positives, of course. Viktor Gyökeres scores the first of what we hope are many, many goals. He's a really different striker. He's a very different type of centre forward than we've had. He's a classic target man, number 9, plays off the last shoulder, runs in behind, gets into the box, takes shots when he can. And I think as though that when he had that shot in the first half, when we caught Leeds out a little bit and he snatched at it and spun round and got to the ball, which kind of just went trickling wide of the goal. You could tell, I think the pressure and expectation was kind of on him. And there was this weight, I think, of trying to get the first goal done and get that element of weight off of his back. And I think that was evident in, of course, how he celebrated his goal. But before we talk about that, the goal itself, brilliant ball from Calafiori down the left. Great run from Gyökeres into the box, takes on 2 defenders. They can't get near him. Great touch. If you've got question marks about his technical ability, that hopefully will dissuade some of those fears. And then he just finishes it comfortably into the bottom left-hand corner, like it's no one's business. Really strong finish, really strong goal, and a great first one. And I think his celebration obviously does the usual. But there was like a real... Shari says it. He roared when he scored. It was pure relief. And it was joy. It was determination. It was exuberance. It was elation. But you're right, Shari. There was relief in that celebration. The double kind of fist pump was pure relief that he'd got that goal early, that there wasn't a build-up of waiting for when the goal was going to come. There was pure relief in that. And that's a really, really, really positive moment. And then, of course, he scores the penalty later on in the game. I'll talk about how the penalty was won, of course, separately. But what a penalty taker this guy is. I think you have to say he is our best penalty taker now. And he just hits the ball so hard that the goalkeeper just has absolutely no chance of getting there. If a goalkeeper wants to try and save a Viktor penalty, it's like they're going to have to try and move to get to the corner way before he's kicked the ball. And in which time, hopefully, Gyökeres has the nous to be able to see any movement of the keeper and change what he's going to do accordingly. But the penalty was just absolutely just violent. That's what it was. The word I'd use is just it was violent. It just hits the ball so incredibly hard. And then we just need to get him into more situations where he can shoot. If we can get into more situations where he can have a shot at goal, then he's going to score a lot of goals for Arsenal. A lot of goals for Arsenal. Ferocious, yeah, that's a good word as well. I think that, having somebody with this vociferousness around his ball striking is going to be a real asset to us. But we have to adapt. I asked Arteta after the game, you've played with strikers like Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz, players who like to kind of drop in and help the build-up. Gyökeres is very different. Do you feel like your team is now adapting to him? To which he said, yeah, it will help us to evolve and find other ways of attacking teams and connecting with each other. And it's clear where with Viktor, he's really dangerous. What's his superpower? And let's put him as much as possible into those kinds of scenarios because something will happen. We've got players that can produce goals out of nothing, really. We've got players who can just produce moments where we're not playing particularly well. I wouldn't say it was an amazing performance by Viktor overall. I think I saw Alex's tweet after the game from TDK, and I think he's right. Havertz would have a game where he'd do 15 things, 14 things of those would be right, but he didn't score because he didn't have the finishing ability. Whereas Gyökeres kind of does 15 things, 8, 9 of them are right, but scores 2 goals. Like, that's the difference. And I think that's the key in terms of a top striker is that if their game is around finishing, just get them into the positions where they can do that, and you will benefit from them. But of course, the penalty that Gyökeres scored was won by this man. What is there to say at this point? What is there to say about Max Dowman? I'm still find myself in a state of strong consciousness about not wanting to go too hard. I don't want to put him in thumbnails. I don't want to put, crazy adjectives into titles of videos or tweets about him too much, because I still can't help but shake that protective feeling. I've said this before. I think it comes from me being previously a teacher, having taught 15-year-olds. It's baffling to me that age bracket, being that age, you can go and do things like this. There's just an kind of an undertone of always wanting to be protective of young people and not wanting to expose them too much to kind of the reality. But the reality is that he just deals with it. It just doesn't faze him. He doesn't, and I mean this in a nice way, he doesn't care. He does not care about the occasion. He does not care about the pressure. He does not care about missing a shot. He doesn't care about taking on a player twice his age. He doesn't care in the greatest way possible, because he just lets his talent speak. He knows how good he is. He knows what he can do. He knows what he's capable of. He knows that his teammates support him. He knows his teammates think of the world of him. And it's just, it's unbelievable is the word. It's unbelievable, to the point where with Saka missing, there's a genuine, and I mean this very sincerely, there's a genuine conversation to be had about when he starts. I think to start him at Anfield would be nuts, personally, but he'll has to play at some point. If Arsenal need a goal, Arsenal need something to happen, he produces it. He's got that ability to produce something from nothing. And at Anfield, I'd probably start Madueke on the right, and I'd go with Eze, I guess, on the left. Nwaneri at 10 would probably be what I go with, unless I go with Eze at 10 and Martinelli or Trossard on the left. That's another option. Probably that, to be fair. I didn't think Nwaneri had an amazing game when he came off the bench, to be honest. So probably Eze at 10 if Odegaard's not fit, and one of Martinelli or Trossard, probably Trossard on the left-hand side. But he's going to get an opportunity, and you're going to get people saying he should start. You're going to get people saying that he should play. So that's going to happen. That's going to be a conversation people have this week, and with Saka potentially missing, almost certainly will be missing. I'll be surprised if Saka plays against Liverpool. Hamstring injuries, you don't want to, especially if he's felt it. You don't want to do something too bad. What I will say is that hopefully the Saka's issue is not as bad as his last one, and hopefully it's not one that requires surgery, and it's just a case of it needs time to heal, and it'll be a few weeks. But and at least it's now and not in the middle or the end of the season. That would have been awful if it was then. So hopefully it's just now. But yeah, it's what more is there to say? I'm sure there is, and we'll come on to those in part two. But now we have a challenge now, and that challenge is, of course, dealing with the absence of Saka. Arteta has a challenge to continue to galvanise the momentum of this squad. We didn't need to lose these players now. It's a really difficult point of the season, even though, as I say, it's better probably happen now than later on. But because of the thick nature of the fixture lists, midway, halfway, mid to late parts of the season that we hope for. But Arteta's got a real challenge on his hands now to deal with the depth. And he was asked a question in the press conference about this idea that, typically when you've lost players like Saka and Odegaard in the past, the feeling has been that the challenge will be over. these are terminal diagnoses for a title challenge if you lose these players. And he said, well, you have to see the evolution and the way the team played, the amount of minutes that the team played in 23-24. You can name the team, the starting 11 at that point. Last year, it was a bit different because of the amount of injuries that we had as well. And the start has not been great in that sense. But we are much more equipped, without a doubt. And it's necessary. If you want to compete at this level and be very dominant, there is not any other option. And this is why when you see the reductive criticisms of Arteta, which is like, he spent £1 billion. and you see those kind of, he spent £1 billion. And you're like, well, yeah, he kind of had to. Because you look at the squad he inherited when he took over at Arsenal. Absolutely, he needed to spend £1 billion because even 800 odd million quid in, we still didn't have depth because we had to effectively replace the entire starting 11 bar Saka and Saliba. And now we've got to a point where after 800 million, we're moving into the billions. And now we're creating a squad full of depth, full of quality. So that if we lose Odegaard, if we lose Saka, if we lose Kai, we've still got the depth to compete. We haven't had that before. We haven't had that. Last season, we didn't have it. Now we have it. And that comes after spending money on your White and your Timber and your Gabriel and your Calafiori and bringing through Saliba and bringing through Lewis Skelly and Saka and Martinelli, signing your Declan Rices and Zubamendis and Norgards of this world, signing your Odegaards and Marinos and adding Eze now, of course, to Madueke in the squad. That money had to be spent to do that, to build that depth. But until now, we've not been able to do it. And now we have a squad that even with these injuries, it's because at the start of the season we were saying, you spent this amount of money, there's no excuses. That doesn't change because of these injuries. It's certainly a mitigating circumstance. There's no doubt about that. But the point is that we spent this money so that we can deal with the pains and the processes that come with the season. If we lose players, we've spent and we've invested so that we can protect ourselves. And that's really important. Protecting yourself and investing to protect yourself has to be a priority in life in general, whether it's in the world of football or whether it's in the world of surfing the internet. Protecting yourself through investment, a small amount of money a month, maybe an investment a year to give yourself that security online is really, really, really important. And if you are going to invest in something that's going to give you that safety and security when you're on the net, perhaps gives you a superpower to change your geolocation, there is only one choice. There is only one. And that, of course, is NordVPN. And if you're not already signed up by going to nordvpn.com/Gooner and getting yourself a discount off a 2-year plan. But on top of all that as well, 4 months extra thrown in free too. I don't know what to say at this stage. I don't know what to say at this stage because the offer is there. The offer of a lifetime to secure yourself is there. There is no question that this is the service if you want a VPN to use. The territories that it involves, the speed, the security, the service, the customer support, all of that. As well as, of course, if you're not happy with it, I don't know why you wouldn't be, but if you weren't happy with it, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there you go. NordVPN.com/Gooner. Make sure you go and check it out and make sure you get yourself protected online. Right, let's go to part 2. Your questions and more right after this. This is part 2 of today's show where we're going to be tackling some of your questions, some of your thoughts, some of your feelings and more in the comment section as well. So if you've got any comments, you've got any questions that you'd like, of course, to include in today's show, now is the time to throw them into the chat box. Thank you so much as always for listening. We do try and reach 1,000 likes on the video. So if you haven't already dropped a like on the video, that'd be grateful, really, really grateful if you could. I realized I forgot to remind you at the start of the video, and there's nearly 1,800 of you watching. So if you haven't already dropped a like on today's video, please, please, please make sure You do. Right, let's jump into the chat, shall we? Tempe's been a member on the channel for 16 months. Absolutely incredible. Ringside has dropped in a super chat, says, Mr. Trick Tom, Ebere, long time. I don't get the reference. I'm sorry. Someone help me out, please, because it's 8 o'clock in the morning and my brain's not woken up yet. John says, come on, Tom. I need to know your heat level ordered at Nando's. Well, it's hot, John. It's got to be hot. We're not FK. We're not a lemon and herb man. No one wants to be a lemon and herb man. Nobody wants to be that guy. So don't be latte firm. Lemon and herb. Despicable. Anyway, Sarbajit says, at some point, half our outfield team were academy players, and that's amazing. Lewis Skelly, Winery, Dowman on the field. Eze could be coming on later in another time. Like, it is amazing to think how many on that field, were academy talents, homegrown players at a very minimum. It's exciting, isn't it? It's very exciting to see. Dan says, Tom, with Saka likely out for a minimum of 4 weeks, who knows? We don't know. Is there a situation where Eze hits the ground running and Martin finds it challenging to get back into the starting 11? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, there's a situation where that could arise. I hope that arises, because that means we would have done it. That means we could have done it, at any point. It means we've done a really good job in terms of recruitment, in terms of investment. We've done really, really, really good work in finding a player that can oust a player like Odegaard from the team. So yeah, Dan's definitely, and I hope that happens in some ways. Luke says, 1 shekel for each goal, Tom. Again, what? Why is everything going over my head this morning? And Ringside explains, says, you said a very, very, very long time in your intro. What, an ever long time. I think you're stretching there as a pun. I think that pun's a little bit of a reach. Alex says, who's been a member for 12 months now on the channel for a whole year. Arsenal gave me the best present for my birthday. Well, happy birthday, Alex. I hope you enjoyed it, mate. I hope you had a great time. It says lemon and herb runs things. Yeah. Makes you run to the toilet, mate. That's about it. Other than that, no. Gary says, I honestly think Saka will be 4 weeks out. Mild hamstring pull, and Odegaard fell awkwardly on his shoulder and will be back first game after the international break. So I'm not that worried. I guess the international break in some ways comes at a good time for us then. After Liverpool, we have a weekend off. I'll be away in Napoli for a weekend while the international break's on. But yeah, I guess it does come at a good time. Ben says, I'm watching from Yogyakarta, if that's pronounced correctly, in Indonesia. If you could sign any player from the under-18s from another Premier League team, who would you bring in? It's a good question. My knowledge of the youth teams of other sides isn't particularly in-depth, so struggling a little bit here, Ben. Yeah, I'm not sure, Ben. Who would you sign? My knowledge of youth football at under 18s level is nowhere near as much as, say, George Bird and that. So we'd still need an improvement there. But let me know who it would be. Cheedo says, Red from Man United. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd bring him back. He missed his chance. Rich says, just felt like giving you some money. Oh, thanks, Rich. I mean, if super chats, if that's how super chats work, then we accept that. I just felt like giving you some money. Thank you, Rich. That's very kind of you. Oh, imagine if 1,700 people felt like doing that. The things we could do. City says, I know Trossard is not match fit, but the difference between him and Dowman when they came on was terrifying. They're just different types of players, aren't they, City? They're just different types. And I think there's an element of underestimating Dowman. I don't think Liverpool will if he plays against Liverpool. I think there'll be a game where Dowman gets the welcome to the Premier League kind of bash. But let's see if he wins a penalty in the process. Jay says, Tom, although some may think that Winery didn't affect the game, to me he was more direct than Odegaard. He had affected the pace and energy of the game, and the football was more free-flowing. Yeah, I'm struggling with that, Jay. I didn't think he had a particularly great game, Ethan, when he came off the bench, to be honest. I know that people offer him a lot of, rope But if I'm going to be critical, I didn't think it was his best game. And I love Ethan Nwaneri, and I think he should stay. And I think the idea of loaning him out was always mad. And I think this situation has showed why it was always mad to consider loaning out Ethan Nwaneri. But I struggle with that. I struggle with that. Let's get, and Ben also said, get back Cheeto. Riley from City says, Cats. I mean, I don't think he's an under 18s player anymore. That's the problem that we've got. Gareth says, Tom, do we have any idea when Jesus is due back? End of the year, I think, would be a more respectable time to expect a return. Probably end of the year. Mike says, did you watch the Sky commentary last night when you got home? Neville moaning that Gyökeres didn't look ready, heavy passes, not in position. He had to rip the narrative up in 3 minutes into the second half. Yeah, look, I don't tend to listen too much to what Gary Neville has to say. I think I just don't rate particularly his punditry. I used to absolutely laud Gary Neville's punditry. When he first joined Sky, I could not have said more nicer things about Gary Neville. But unfortunately, as social media has evolved and how media in general has evolved into this kind of like clippable, rage baiting, must stay on the television by winding people up state that we find ourselves in, he absolutely is the absolute epitome of the devolution of punditry, in my opinion. Used to be, in my opinion, the best pundit on telly. And I would genuinely stick around after games on Sky Sports to listen to what Gary Neville would have to say about a match in analysis. Not anymore. Maybe there's redemption possible, but just not anymore. And I say that with constructive. I don't say it with malice. I don't say it with disrespect. I say it with disappointment. You know, I say it with, I'm gutted that I don't want to stick around and watch the analysis anymore because or even listen to the commentary. And I'm obviously spared of the commentary in the press box, but yeah, it sucks having to listen to particularly Arsenal just get battered every single game and their players get battered. I mean, I heard rumours that he thought he was pressing a diving narrative on Dowman initially, but without even waiting to see all the replays first. So it's a real shame. I'm going to take it while I can, says K9. I'm top of the fantasy league. Things will change. Yeah, it's early. It's very early. I forgot to do my transfers this week. I've still got Frimpong on my team, so it shows you how much attention I pay to fantasy football, doesn't it? Thankfully, I do have Gyökeres, and I had 2 Arsenal defenders. Sadly, one of them was not Timber. Christopher says, Tom, when can Dowman sign his first contract? Slightly concerned he may get snatched off of us. 17, he can sign his first professional contract, I think, or scholarship contract, 17. But obviously he's, he's an Arsenal boy. He's come through the academy. He supports the club. Hopefully that is plenty enough for us to, keep hold of him. Ujlari says, judging by Madueke's performance yesterday, he's clearly not good enough at left wing, but has the potential to be great for us at right wing. I think that's a bit premature, to be honest. There were some good moments from Madueke in the game, actually, on the left-hand side. I think he improved on the right, but I think that's premature to say he's clearly not good enough. I mean, that's just not. It's just far too. You are going way too early in any kind of judgment about a player. So I would rather wait and see what we get from a player like him over the longer period of time, that we should allow for that to happen. Clark says, with our incomings more than likely done, do you think Jesus could be an appropriate answer to our winger options, especially if injuries continue to haunt us, like with Saka? I mean, yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we? We have to wait for his return, wait for him to get back into the squad, wait for him to give us some depth, give, Kai and more likely Gyökeres, some rest. So, yeah, absolutely. Robbie says, Tom, did you see how Rice tried gifting Dowman an opportunity in front of goal? The young lad went the wrong way, and then Rice threw his hands up with a smile. Great seeing the team around him. Yeah, he gave the ball to Nwaneri, who didn't then do anything with it. But yeah, clearly Rice was trying to do it. I put a tweet out yesterday. If you wanted to know what the record would be for the youngest ever Premier League goal scorer, the youngest current Premier League goal scorer is Everton's James Vaughan, who was 16 years and 270 days old when he scored the youngest ever Premier League goal. Max Dowman is currently 15 years and 235 days old. So he currently has a long, long way. He has a whole year and 35 days to score in the Premier League to become the Premier League's youngest ever Premier League goal scorer. And I wouldn't bet against that record being broken at this stage. I think it certainly will eventually fall. Top Dog says, "Let's go. Here's some more cash, Tom. Everyone send £1," says Top Dog. Thanks, mate. Building on that rich train that started earlier. I just felt like giving you some money. Just the best reason for a super chat ever. Trader Mike says, Mosquera debut thoughts. Is he better on? Is NM better on the right? I think that Mosquera just looks a very calm player. He just looks very, very astute, very composed. He's not full of thrills. He's not, going to take headlines. Mosquera just looks very chill, very competent, very talented. He looks like he fits. That's probably the best compliment I could pay him. He just fits straight in. He just looks like he can fit. And he's right. Yeah, Jack, you're right. He's got some real speed to him. He's not slow. He's not sluggish. He's got some real athleticism. But I think he's an intelligent player as well. I think his distribution, it was a little bit in question before he joined, but I think that's part of his game that will develop a lot more as he grows as well. John says, my nephew plays for Watford's under-21s and told me about Dowman 18 months ago and said that he's a baller. Yeah, it makes sense. He was ripping up the youth leagues, of course, as well. So there you go. Jay also points out that Max has produced 3 penalties in 3 appearances for Arsenal. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've got hiccups now. God, get rid of them. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The idea that you can win penalties at that much of a canter is going to get Gyökeres a lot of goals, clearly, 100%. I think we'll bring the show towards a close. Reason why is I'm going to be recording with this man in about 15 minutes' time. Another morning show for you to listen to. Albert JTV, head over there at 9 o'clock this morning. I'll be speaking with our good friend of the show, Albert, over there. So let's get a raid going. 15 minutes. I want to see as many of you in the Albert JTV chat as feasibly possible. If it's live, Albert, I assume it's live. I hope it's live. So yeah, go and check it out. That's where it's going to be. Albert, make sure you leave a link to it. In fact, why don't I leave a link to it? That's probably the easiest way, isn't it? If I leave a link to it in the chat box, and then you're all going to raid it. You're all going to be there in 15 minutes. So let's wait and see if we can get as many of you in the chat box as feasibly possible joining us over there in about 15 minutes time. Albert's channel is incredibly underfollowed. So make sure you are, if not already, subscribed to Albert JTV because he's an absolutely top lad. So yeah, he's only got 1,500 subs. So let's see if we can get up to 2. That'd be great. Anyway, thank you so much as always for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I'll see you in about 15 minutes over on Albert JTV. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.